Hello, I'm back doing another Pokemon Theory stream. I know last time I did this I went kind of crazy, so I'm going to do that again. Now, fair warning to people, my biggest qualification for this is I won a furry Pokemon tournament at FWA, so take that as you will. My main goal with this is to hopefully inspire people who are better at the game than me to do well with these Pokemon. So I just wanted to go over some Pokemon that I feel are underrated in the current format and that I think have a lot of potential to excel. Maybe not win worlds with some of them, but I think some of them definitely have that shot to do it. So I wanted to go with Eternatus first. This is a Pokemon that I really believe in. I think it wants to run leftovers. Now, this is when I was considering running to the FWA tournament. I ended up going with Zamazenta, which was, I think I picked that before it was considered to be really good. It turned out to be the right pick for the tournament. So Eternatus kind of wants to run Terra Dark. It's a good type and avoids Prankster. Now there's obviously other types. I don't know what's the best one. Steel I think has some good possibilities because it's a very solid defensive typing. You could probably run Fairy. I think Dark's pretty solid. Leftovers gets good recovery. Run this thing next to Rillaboom so you get the Leftovers Grassy Terrain recovery. Now with this thing you want to run, I think it's Sludge Bomb, Flamethrower, Cosmic Power, and then Recover. Now this thing's goal is basically to stall out the teammates. I'm just going to throw a quick IV set together. Or not stall the teammates, stall out the opponent. So you want to run as bulky as possible. This is probably not the best spread to run, I just threw something together real quick. So you want to run Cosmic Power to get your defense and special defense up as quickly as possible. And then you can use Pressure to PP stall. Throw a support Pokemon like a Moongus next to it, you can heal up. It's a very bulky Pokemon, I think has potential. Put it on a team with a Glamora to get up Toxic Spikes. You have a lot of potential there. So I think this has a decent bit going for it. Its main issue is it is a bit passive. That's going to happen with something that's a little bulky and doesn't have the most offensive presence, but it's very hard to remove from the field if played correctly. Now, next one is going to be Kyurem White. So Kyurem White is, I'd say it's underrated. It's not as underrated as some of the other ones. Now, this thing can run Assault Vest or Choice Specs. I'm a fan of the Assault Vest set. I think it's pretty good. Turbo Blaze is a pretty good ability. It ignores the effects of other abilities, so I think this means it can bypass the Terra Shell of Terapagos, which is really good. You want to run Blizzard. What else? Freeze Dry, I think. Yeah, Freeze Dry. And then maybe Draco Meteor. And throw Fusion Flare on there. These are all really good. Now, one thing I saw at the tournament I played in, the FWA tournament, it was one of my opponents in the semifinals was running a very interesting Terra type. It was Terra Ground with Terra Blast. So Terra Ground and Terra Blast is really strong. Terra Ground allows you to be immune to Electric, which is really good into Miraidon, which is a very strong restricted Pokemon, and Terra Blast with Ground lets you hit a lot of things for a lot of damage. Like Miraidon doesn't take a Terra Ground Terra Blast very well. Neither does Raging Bolt. Zamazenta is really bad into it because this is a special attacker, so Zamazenta does kind of take a good bit. Any physical attacker that runs Terra Fire that can be Groudon, Koraidon, Calyrex Ice, even some Zamazenta. I think some Zacian run Terra Fire as well. Actually, I think most Zacian run Terra Fire. So Terra Ground does a lot into a lot of things. I think it's got a very solid set. You want to run this with Aurora Veil, Alola Ninetales, maybe Prankster, Snowscape, Tornadus. Some good possibilities there. There's a lot of flexibility with this, as I said. Assault Vest, Choice Specs both work really well. You have some flexibility with the moveset, Blizzard, Freeze Dry, Draco Meteor, Terra Blast, and Fusion Flare, I think it was. Yeah, Fusion Flare. Actually, no, it wasn't Terra Blast. It was Earth Power. Yeah, Earth Power is really good. It's better than Terra Blast. I don't know why I thought it was Terra Blast. Yeah, Earth Power. Lunala is another really strong one. It's got Shadow Shield. Lunala won the first Regulation G tournament. It was back before the tournament was being officially run. It was one of the practice tournaments, I want to say. It was next to, I think, Armarouge, Indeedee, uh, Ursaluna, like regular Ursaluna. I want to say King Gambit. It's basically a really solid Trick Room setter. Its set is pretty standard at this point. You want to run Power Herb, Meteor Beam, uh, Moongeist Beam, Wide Guard, and then you can run Tailwind if you want a solid Tailwind, but it's not going to be your Tailwind setter. The main use of it is a hard Trick Room team. Shadow Shield allows it to not take damage very well, or it takes damage very well because it halves. Yeah, it halves damage taken. It's got a really bad defensive type. It takes use of a Terra Normal fairly well. You can also take use of a more defensive one like Terra Steel, Terra Fairy. You could go more offensively with something like Terra Rock to get more damage from your Meteor Beam. I wouldn't recommend that, but it's up to you. So a lot of potential there. Groudon is a interesting one. It's been called a fraud, which I think is honestly kind of valid. It's not particularly strong in the current format because of Precipice Blades. Precipice Blades is very strong, but its accuracy means it misses a lot. Not the best. It's usually going to run Clear Amulet. Which fire type move does it usually run? I'm not entirely sure. I want to say, yeah, Heat Crash, Swords Dance, and then I want to say Protect is the last one. Terra Fire. This is the usual set that it runs. It's a solid set, but there's a reason this isn't working. Clear Amulet, I think, is the right choice on Groudon. You have Incineroar being one of the top Pokemon in the format. You want to have a way to keep your attack up. Heat Crash is solid. I think Precipice Blades, it has a lot of things going for it, but just because of its accuracy, it might be better to drop altogether. So I would say maybe going for something like High Horsepower could be better. Stopping Tantrum is a little more accurate. I don't know if it's better in this scenario. If this thing got Earthquake, I think that would be fantastic. I honestly thought that it did. Oh, it does. I just did not. I scrolled down too much. Yeah, I would say Earthquake is probably better to run just because the accuracy. Put this thing next to some flying types, some Terra flying types, some that resists ground. This thing can deal a lot of damage with that. Terrifier works really good with the Heat Crash bonus. I think Terrifier is a solid Terra type to run on it, but one of the issues with it is it's very predictable, and that's one of the weaknesses of it. You could run something like Terra Dragon, that's a good defensive type. I do think Terrifier is probably the best one, but you could definitely run something else for a little bit of a surprise factor. In open team sheets, the surprise factor is not as much of a concern because you can see their Terra type, but it could be useful in throwing them off or having most people aren't calculating specific rolls on Groudon. So I do think Terrifier is genuine or generally the best Terra type turn on it. I think there's a lot that can be done with Groudon. Someone's going to figure it out and they're going to do really well with it. King Gambit is one I thought was going to do really good early on in the format. Defiant is a solid ability. It's very good against Intimidate from Incineroar. It's very good against Icy Wind from Fluttermane. It's good into a lot of strategies. Now the main set is going to be Black Glasses, Kowtow Cleave, Sucker Punch, Swords Dance, Protect, Terra Dark, This is pretty good. Now, I do think Ironhead is another one you want to run just because of the Steel Stab. It's kind of a trade-off because Kowtow Cleave, really strong move. The not checking accuracy is good if you come across a like cheesy team like minimize teams. It's good if you come across something like Articuno with its evasion in the snow. Sucker Punch is good for priority because this thing is slow. You want to run it on Trick Room. So I would say go 0 ID, minus nature. Probably something like this. You'd obviously want to optimize it just a little bit better, or a lot better. You can even drop Protect for Ironhead. It's really up to you. You could drop Kowtow Cleave for Ironhead. There's a lot of different options here. Its weakness to fighting is a concern. A lot of times you can run Terra Fairy for that. Terra Dark is good for the bonus on Kowtow Cleave and Sucker Punch along with the Black Glasses. It's a strong Pokemon. I think that's something that has kind of been overlooked. I want to say it did decent earlier in the format. It's not one that's completely overlooked, I'd say. I just think it's got a lot more going for it than people give it credit for. I'd love to see this thing next to Calyrex Ice more often. Defiant needs to be taken advantage more often because Incineroar is all over the place. If you have a physical attacker, put this thing next to it. If you're running Calyrex Ice, put your Kingambit on the field next to it. If your Calyrex Ice has been knocked off by the Incineroar, if it swaps in while your Kingambit is on the field, your Kingambit gets an automatic attack boost. It's going to do a lot. Now, similar with Annihilate. Annihilate is one that I'm not as familiar with, but one of my friends who I fought in the finals of the FWA tournament is a strong believer in. Now, it's got a lot of potential to it, like good typing. I think this is a strong counter to Incineroar, as most Defiant Pokemon are. I remember in earlier formats, this thing would run Assault Vest a lot, which is fair. It is a bulky Pokemon, or do you want to run it as a bulky Pokemon? I don't know what the optimal spread would be to run it. Rage Fist is a really strong move. I think there's a lot of potential there. That's why there was Mouse Ape as a archetype earlier in the format. This thing gets coaching. That's actually pretty good as a support move. Okay. Coaching is an option if you want to use this as more of a support, which I think is fair. Drop Assault Vest for maybe something like, I don't think Leftovers is the right move. You could use Life Orb. Not sure if that's the best option. It could be, but I don't. Again, this is not one that I really know much about. I think Red Card might be decent. Red Card isn't something that sees much play, but Rage Fist and Red Card I feel like could combo pretty well. I'm just kind of spitballing here. I didn't really prepare much for this one in particular because it's not one I'm familiar with. I really haven't used it too much. Let's see, what would be good on it? Safety Goggles, I think, would be a solid thing because you're not running a Vital Spirit. I mean, you can run Vital Spirit. I wouldn't, though. It's good into Amoonguss Spore. So Assault Vest or Safety Goggles, you could run Coaching as a bit of support. I think Close Combat is another solid option because Close Combat's just strong generally. I'm going to build around the Assault Vest set. Drain Punch is good for recovery. I think I would actually run Drain Punch over Close Combat. You could probably run both if you really wanted to. Helping Hand. Okay, this thing actually has some great support moves. I'm going to go over to the Safety Goggles set. Huh. Ice Punch is good coverage, good for like a Moongus. Wow. This thing's a lot better than I thought it was. U-turn for pivoting is pretty strong. So yeah, you have some potential here. I don't know what the best Terra type for this would be. You could go with something offensive like Ghost, you could go for something a little defensive like Fire to prevent burns. You could go for Fairy, which is just strong defensively. You have a lot of options. Oranguru is the next one we're going to cover. Now this one, I think you want to run Terra Dark to avoid Prankster, like Prankster Taunt, Prankster Encore, Prankster Disable. Inner Focus, really strong ability. It allows you to be immune to like Fake Out, really good. You want to run Mental Herb so that you cannot be taunted if you don't want to waste your Terra. Now this Pokemon gave me a little bit of trouble, not too much, but a little bit of trouble in the finals of the FWA tournament. It was used by my friend Sefi, and they played very well. Their thought process behind using Oranguru on their Cali Ice team was, what is stronger than one restricted Pokemon? Two. And that's honestly really hard to argue with. And the reason for that is, it's not Encore, is it? Yeah, After You. After You is pretty strong. You just use your move twice. It is After You, right? Pretty sure it's After You. And Taunt. Yeah. Yawn is probably a good thing to run on it. I would run Yawn. I just want to make sure I have all of this correct. Oh, you can run a Reflect on it. Does this thing have light screen? Light screen, so you can get screens up. There's a lot of flexibility with this. You can run light screen, Reflect, After You, Taunt, Trick Room. Very strong support Pokemon. You can even have Knockoff to get rid of opponents' items. You could run something a little niche like Skill Swap. Skill Swap's usually not the best. I've found success with it in the past in some scenarios. Not quite what you want to be running a lot. And Prison is very situational. It's kind of gimmicky, but you have some options. You can run Rain Dance or Sunny Day. Oranguru is not the one you want to run with that, but if you want weather on Oranguru, go for it. Basculegion saw a little bit of success early in I think it was Regulation E, I think. I don't quite remember, that was a little while ago. Swift Swim, strong ability, put it on rain teams, throw like, I don't even know if this is the right form, or if it was the other form. Wave Crash, Last Respects, I think you want to run Choice Band, Flip Turn, and then a third coverage move, like maybe Crunch. I don't think Icy Fang is good. I could run Outrage, Psychic Fangs, and then Headbutt. Personally, I think I would run Crunch. Some Swim Pokemon have had some success next to Kyogre. Overquill got really high up in a tournament recently. That was impressive. I did not expect Overquill to do that well. A lot of potential there. So Basculegion, I think it can be explored a little bit. There's a lot of Swift Swim Pokemon that have some potential. I just wanted to cover Basculegion because it's a Pokemon I really like, and I just wanted to see a little more of. Raichu. Raichu is an interesting one. It has Lightning Rod and Fake Out. Now, Lightning Rod and Fake Out, pretty good into Miraidon. Throw Terra Fairy on this thing, and it walls Miraidon entirely. Lightning Rod can't get hit by the electric type moves, it boosts its special attack. Fairy, it's immune to the Draco Meteor, which most Miraidon run Choice Specs, Volt Switch, Discharge, Electro Drift, Draco Meteor. Throw something like maybe Focus Sash on this thing, solid support. You could throw Electro Web for speed control. You could do Draining Kiss for recovery. Wouldn't recommend it though. It's usually not gonna be putting out enough damage to really make that worth it. Helping Hand, Knock Off to get rid of items. You can run Light Screen or Reflect to get up screens. Run Quick Attack for priority. Probably not the best, but you can do it. Thunder Wave for paralysis. Volt Switch for pivoting. you have a lot of options here. It's a flexible Pokemon. Like there's a reason this was a popular Pokemon back in some other formats. Fake Out is a strong move, and having Lightning Rod to direct electric attacks, it's great. This thing underexplored for walling Rhydon. Pachirisu, kind of similar. This thing's very infamous for winning a tournament or winning a Worlds, not just a tournament, with Volt Absorb. Follow me. This is kind of an alternative to Raichu. If you want to have Follow Me over Fake Out, I think that's very valid. So probably Focus Sash on this thing too. It also has some. It's got okay bulk. It's got some support moves like you can run Fake Tears, Electro Web, Helping Hand. It's got very similar tools. Thunder Wave, Volt Switch. I don't think this one gets screens. Actually, you want Nuzzle over Thunder Wave. Usually. Yeah. Yeah, you just want Nuzzle. Nuzzle's more accurate and deals damage. Does this one get Nuzzle as well? Wasn't looking. Yeah, it does. So you want Nuzzle over Thunder Wave. So really solid Pokemon. I think this one could. It also benefits from Terra Fairy. Raichu and Pachirisu, good options if your team is struggling with the Miraidon matchup. Comfey is a Pokemon that helped me win the FWA tournament. I accidentally ran Terra Ghost. I meant to run Terra Dark. So the good thing about this Pokemon is as Triage, which is priority 3. So considering this thing's speed stat and the Triage priority, it's going to outspeed Fake Out in most scenarios, I believe. I think it's either the same priority or a priority above Fake Out. Put Mental Herb on this thing, so you don't even need to run Terra Ghost to get rid of to get Fake Out immunity. It's a very strong Pokemon. It has a lot of options. You can run where is it? Floral Healing, really good move. It's basically Prankster that works on all types, healing for 50%. So if you get this thing on your field next to your restricted who's at low health, immediately healed up to 50%. That's very good. Draining Kiss for the instant recovery. This Draining Kiss, like giving it a little bit of recovery, it doesn't seem very good at first because of how weak this thing is. But trust me, it puts in a lot of work. Draining Kiss, being Fairy type, has some really good advantages. If you come across a Koraidon that is unprepared, one Draining Kiss without any special attack investment can do around half of its health. It's very good if your proponent is not prepared. Helping Hand, pretty useful. I can't remember if I ran Helping Hand on mine or not. Pollen Puff, decent. I just prefer to run Floral Healing over Pollen Puff, although you could probably I'd probably prefer Draining Kiss over Pollen Puff. I don't see a particularly good reason to run Pollen Puff. Trick Room, I do remember running on mine. I ran Trick Room as a way to get rid of Trick Room. Oh wait, I did not run Helping Hand. I ran Taunt, and then I ran Trick Room. So this was my set. I think I spec'd it something like this. I think this is how I distributed my stats for my Comfey. It worked really well for me. Really solid Pokemon. I think it can see a lot more play. This thing, put it next to Zamazenta, put it next to Eternatus, like I mentioned earlier, put it next to Terapagos. Terapagos is actually where I got the inspiration for it. Some Terapagos teams very early in the format were running Comfey. I thought that was a brilliant idea. I put it next to my Zamazenta. It helps me win the tournament. There was a situation where my Comfey was facing down a Miraidon and a Whimsicott, and it was able to clean up the game with Triage Draining Kiss. It was insane. Garganackle is a Pokemon I also believe in very strongly. This is a Pokemon that you mostly want as a Calyrex Shadow counter, which I looked at the usage stats. Calyrex Shadow is up right now. Terra Ghost is a solid type. It makes you immune to the fighting type weakness that Rock has, which is good into the Urshifu matchup. It gives you a neutral matchup into water and grass, which are also very common weaknesses. Rock's not the best typing in the format right now, I'll admit that, but Garganacl has a lot of bulk to it. Put leftovers on it. I think I ran something probably like this. I don't particularly remember what it was. Now, Salt Cure is a fantastic move. This thing puts pressure on the opponent. It's very good into Pokemon that want to stay on the field, like Terapagos or Zamazenta, because it encourages them to swap out. In the Kyogre matchup, being able to deal that extra damage to water types, also very strong. Salt Cure, it puts a lot of pressure and basically forces your opponent to switch out and put them out of position. I used it in the finals matchup on the Calyrex Ice to make it switch out and put it out of position, which put me into a better spot. Now, in previous formats or previous regulations, it would run Body Press. That's not something I think it really needs to run. If it wants to run an attacking move, I think Heavy Slam is probably its best option. You can even run... I ran Terra Steel on it at some point to make it resistant to both of Calyrex Shadow's Stab, which is... and its most common Terra. So it resists Terra Fairy Draining Kiss, it resists the Astral Barrage, and it resists the Psychic moves that are also in its stab. Unfortunately, this leaves it open to the fighting type coverage from Urshifu, which was a big problem for me, so I ended up swapping to Terra Ghost. Now, the biggest thing going for Garganacl is the move Wide Guard. Wide Guard is a fantastic move in this format. Most restricteds have a spread move. Being able to block a spread move is fantastic. Wide Guard on Garganacl has saved me a lot. And this thing's bulky enough where you don't even need to run Recovery a lot of times. You can just run Recover and heal it. I've had a lot of situations where this thing just lives on low health or does not take very much damage at all. And if you put it on a low speed IV, this thing underspeeds both Amoonguss and Calyrex Ice, and I think it even underspeeds Torkoal. I could check though. No, it doesn't underspeed Torkoal. But Torkoal's not really that relevant anyways, and this thing has a positive matchup into Torkoal with its rock typing. So it underspeeds Amoonguss, underspeeds Ursaluna, underspeeds Calyrex Ice. This thing is a very good counter to Trick Room. Just knowing that it's going to move last can be very big. So I'm a big Garganacl believer. Mine was actually a shiny Garganacl. It was pretty neat. Now Hydrapple, I'm going to be honest, it kind of sucks, but this is one that I want to see it do good so badly. It's got good bulk. I'll give it that. It's got solid bulk. Where it kind of shows it's supporting move pool. It's got a it's got Pollen Puff, Reflect, Yawn, Dragon Tail. It's not the best support, I'll be honest. I really want more from this thing support-wise. I think it's got some great options. Dragon Cheer is it's a solid option. You don't see many people using Dragon Cheer, but I feel like when I see it being used, it's always pretty well. Syrup Bomb is also decent, good form of speed control. You can even use it on your own partner during Trick Room because this thing has a low speed stat. It kind of wants to be under Trick Room. Maybe run 0 speed IVs, even a speed loss nature. I'd say probably just leftovers on this thing. Probably Terra Steel. Now, the biggest thing going for it is its ability Super Sweet Syrup, which lowers evasiveness. Now, this thing can make your inaccurate moves actually hit, like Groudon's Precipice Blades that never hit, you can make it actually hit. Chiyu, who is kind of infamous and competitive for missing all of its moves, it's not going to miss its move with Super Sweet Syrup. Super Sweet Syrup is kind of the main thing carrying Hydrapple's potential, but out of all the Pokemon on this list, I feel like Hydrapple is the least deserving of being on here. It's got options, right? But it just doesn't have enough options. If it had a better supporting move pool, I think it would have potential. Its bulk, it's solid, but leaves a bit to be desired. Its typing, just you're gonna die very easily to ice, which isn't what you want. And Sinister is the last one, Hospitality. Pretty quick healing. Probably want to run, I'd say Mental Herb on this thing. Matcha Gotcha, maybe Foul Play, and then Rage Powder. And you can run Strength Sap or like Trick Room. I think a lot of these run Terra Steel. It's a solid Pokemon. Its typing is just really unfortunate into Incineroar. It's not good Incineroar matchup typing, but it's a solid Pokemon, just being able to heal and switch in. I personally prefer Comfey to it. I think Comfey just has a little bit more, but a little bit more going for it. With Comfey, you have to be on the field to do the healing. Sinistcha is more immediate, so it's definitely a preference thing. And I think that covers all the Pokemon I wanted to go over. Yeah. If you disagree with, oh wait, actually, let's go over Armarouge. Yeah. So Armarouge, probably, I don't know which one would be better for this. I'd say Flashfire. This thing was on the Lunala team that won the first tournament, if I remember correctly. It is useful for its access to Wide Guard. Expanding Force is a solid move, like it's still outputting a bunch of damage with this thing. I like Destiny Bond personally. I used Destiny Bond back when I ran this thing in Regulation B. Probably not the best move, I'm going to be honest, but it does have a niche. You can, oh wait, you will probably want to run Meteor Beam and then Power Herb, or run Focus Sash and drop Meteor Beam entirely. It's got a lot of offensive potential. Put this thing under Trick Room next to Indeedee on a Lunala team or a Calyrex Ice team. It's got some solid potential to it, even in this format. Got a lot going for it. I think it's a solid Pokemon. Armarouge is an archetype I really enjoyed playing. I want to see it do better, and I think I'm happy that it won the tournament that it did. I just don't see it doing too much better unless someone really decides to run with it, which I'm not seeing happening at the moment. Hopefully I'm wrong though. This is, yeah, I think I'm done. My insane rambles are over. This is all kind of just theorizing, spitballing, just having ideas. Even some of it's regurgitating things I've heard other people say. So I hope I'm right about some of these. I hope I inspired someone who's better at the game than me to, you know, use the stuff. I really want to see Kyurem White do well. I think Kyurem White has a lot of potential to it. And I want to see it do well. I think Terra Ground Earth Power is a very solid set. Yeah, you guys have a nice night. Bye bye.